Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. Today we're going to make cheesy broccoli pepper soup. Yes, this is a brand new recipe that I wanted to share with you. Here are the ingredients. Please pause, write them down, and hey, we love it if you like and share our videos. Let's get cooking. I'm going to start out with about a pound of fresh broccoli. This was 2 small bunches and actually weighs 18 ounces, so that's pretty close. If you're using frozen, you won't need to cook it quite as long, but you can successfully use frozen in this. I salted it. I'm putting in about 2 quarts, or 1.5 quarts, I think I end up with. You just want enough to cover the broccoli, not too much. And we're going to reserve 1 quart of this liquid later. So that's the only measurement you need to make sure of. And just going to cook it until it's very soft, softer than you would if you were just steaming broccoli to eat. I don't want any crunch left in it. So I bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to cover it and turn it down to medium-low heat and let it sit here and simmer slowly for about 20 minutes. Now while the broccoli's cooking, I'm going to slowly saute 1 cup of chopped red peppers. You can actually roast these instead if you like. I just like them fine this way, and it's much easier. Low heat, olive oil, just a little, stir them around, and we're going to let these simmer for about 30 minutes or so to soften them up and help them release the flavor. And I'll just leave these here on this medium-low heat while everything else cooks. And oops, I almost forgot. You want to salt these peppers. Anytime you're sweating vegetables just to soften them up and release the flavors, you want to add some salt. And back to the broccoli. I think this is about done. I'm going to check it. If it just cuts easily with this wooden spoon, it's ready. I don't want any crunch in this. I want it to chop very easily to add back into the soup. So it's where I want it. I'm going to take these up and strain out the liquid. Then I'm going to reserve 1 quart of the broccoli water and use that instead of cream as we would if this were a cream soup. And you could make this a cream soup if you want to. Just replace half the water with cream. And I think our peppers are done. Now these are not as soft as the broccoli because I want some nice pretty chunks of red pepper left in the soup. Now I'm going to cut these up pretty fine. I've got my pastry cutter here. You could use a potato masher. You could even use your immersion blender if you wanted it really, really smooth. I think it's really pretty with some chunks left in it, but it's absolutely a personal preference. And this is about fine enough for me. We've got some chunks of broccoli and peppers, and it's going to be pretty. So now to the soup part. This is half stick of butter, which would be 1/4 cup. Melting it on medium-low heat, and I'm adding 1/4 cup of flour. This is self-rising. If you use all-purpose, you're going to add a pinch of salt to go with it, but you don't need salt when you're using self-rising flour. As always, when we're making a roux, we're going to let it simmer until we get rid of the pasty flavor and smell the nice toasty aroma. This is about medium heat, maybe medium-low, and you'll start to smell. Some people say it smells like pie crust. I just say it smells like toast. And we're very slowly going to add back in the broccoli water, or if you're using some cream, you add it in with it. Now, normally, I would always tell you want to use a cold liquid with a hot roux. And I don't have a cold liquid just because I didn't take time to chill the broccoli water. So you're going to have to stir a little more and look for lumps a little more. When you're using a warm liquid, you're more likely to get lumps. So just take the time to make sure that you stir out any lumps before you add your next little bit of liquid. So just stir, 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 and you won't have any lumps. And you'll see this is very thin because I'm using a different proportion than I would if I wanted a thick sauce. This will thicken some as it simmers, and then we're going to finish the thickening with the cheese. So as soon as you make sure you have no lumps and you start getting that velvety look, we'll add our vegetables back in. And there's a little liquid in these. Maybe I should have drained it a little more, but I think it'll be fine. So just add them back in and give it a stir. And I'm going to let this simmer, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes, just until you start to see it thicken up a little. Let it come back to a nice simmer, about medium heat. And now is the time to taste for salt, pepper, and we'll talk a little about spices. I did add a little salt to the peppers and just a little bit of salt to the broccoli, but I knew it wouldn't be enough. We've added a lot of water. So I'm putting in about a half a teaspoonful of salt. I'm a big believer in salting while you cook because overall you actually lower your sodium intake if you salt while you cook because the flavor is more intensified and people don't salt so much at the table. Then I'm going to add some red pepper flakes. You can use black if you'd prefer. I seldom use black pepper. I love the red pepper flakes. That's about a half a teaspoonful. And this is about a half teaspoonful of cumin. Adding a little bit of cumin to cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower dishes really adds a nice layer of flavor. I recommend you try it. Now another slow simmer, maybe 10 minutes, just to let the flavors meld together. And then the cheese. You see it's thickened up, but we're going to thicken it some more. I have chosen a white Mexican melting cheese like you would get in a cheese dip in a Mexican restaurant. And I've grated up about 6 to 8 ounces. I think this was 6. Stir it in kind of slowly. Let it melt as you go. And this is our last step. I'll let it simmer just long enough for the cheese to melt, and then I'll plate this up and show you what we got. I think this is a pretty soup. I want to give it a taste. See the nice chunks of red pepper. Now, as I said, you could have blended these a little finer so you didn't have chunks in it, but I think the chunks are pretty and the taste is so good. It doesn't taste like a cream soup. It's more full of the broccoli and pepper flavor even than you would have with a cream soup. But you can make this a cream soup if you like. And I'm going to dress it up just a little with one of my corn muffins. I've done another video on making these corn muffins, but to me, cornbread and soup is a perfect match. So hope you try this. It's really yummy. And thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. I hope to see you again tomorrow.